This is a CBC podcast.
Ani Nejayan, how are you?
Gonalonkwa, which is I love you.
Ahkameyimok, keep going.
Dying today for Don't Touch.
This is First Words, an Indigenous language podcast by Unreserved.
Yat'e, which is a greeting.
Miigwech, which means thank you.
Hi.
Hey, people.
Hey. My name is Anthony Johnson. I'm of the French-Canadian people born for the Many Goats clan. French-Canadian Dolnet Nishlingo, Klizaflana Bashishchin, Polish Dasha Che, Ado Tchini Dashanella, Egut Ego Dinishla. Anthony Johnson Yunisha.
Danse nitutemte kegwa newago makantik, kiheo kapapimote tegwa mestigwaski knapesis nuihuin, onyx koponiko chinia. It's so good to be in studio today. My name is James Makokis. I'm from the Satellite Cree Nation in northeastern Alberta. My Cree names are Eagle Walker and Little Boy Drum.
James, should we share the big news? Should we share Team Ahkameyimok's big accomplishment?
I don't know. We won the Amazing Race Canada. Our team name is Team Ahkameyimok, which refers to many people not giving up and persevering and continuing in the face of adversity and at any challenge and at any cost where you think you're not going to be able to go through it. Ahkameyimok is a singular, you would refer to one person. Ahkameyimok is referring to many people. And for me in particular, this was so important because when I was in medical school and university, because I was in school for 13 years, and it got really tough because of just the academic rigor of things, or, you know, working a 36-hour shift as a resident physician, or experiencing racism, or different things like that that come up as barriers and challenges. And we wanted to give up that my family would bring us home, you know, even if it was for a weekend, and arrange a ceremony for us, whether that was a mahtotsan. Mahto in Cree means to cry. Mahtotsan is the crying lodge or the sweat lodge, where we go to help ourselves be connected with Gikawinoaski, Mother Earth. It's like a womb, to be connected with that again. And there's many teachings in that, but they would arrange for that. And our elders, when we'd go home, they'd be like, Ahkameyimok nosem, don't give up my grandchild. And they would be so encouraging for me and my sister. And so being on the mat and winning was a win for them, and it was a win for many people across the country, many Indigenous people. And it was a win for my grandparents and grandmothers and cookums and wisdoms who have taught me many things about how to be a good nehio, a good person, who are no longer with us. And so that's why it was so significant, because it represented and embodied many experiences for many people. But Anthony actually came up with the name.
Yeah. So some people know that we got married during a marathon, and James loves to run. He's done like 16 or 17 marathons. That was my first. And but I'm not like, you know, if it's like, Anthony, what are you going to do this Saturday? Like, you will never hear me be like, I'm going for a run. Like, it's not a thing that I want to do. I have to do it to maintain health. But I was out running one day, and I came back, and he's like, you went for a run? I was like, yes, I went for a run. And there was this point in the run where I wanted to give up. And we had been talking about our name. We knew we were going to be on this show, and we were like, what's significant? Like, what would make sense? And during that run, I came back, and I was like, I know what our team name is, and it's Team Ahkameyimok, because I didn't want to give up. I went for a run because the training started for the race months before. Like, I was like, we have to get ready. I want to run. I don't want to let my husband down. So I was out running. And the cool thing about Ahkameyimok is that it's easy to say. It's a fun word. But this word and this phrase and this idea exists in many languages. And so the beauty of our name, and this is the first place we're sharing this, is that Team Ahkameyimok isn't Anthony and James. Team Ahkameyimok is every person out in the world who doesn't want to give up and who wants to keep going. So it could be like Team Fuerte in Spanish, like that strength, that drive, like team get her done, or even, team giver.
Team giver.
Yeah, team giver in English. Like it's this idea that we refuse to give up because we believe and we have strength and we're worthy and we won't stop, because why should we?
So many people that were holding us up on their shoulders, who were with us in spirit, who were running beside us, and we could feel them doing that. Like all of the people I was thinking this morning, who might have attended residential schools and who didn't have the opportunity to experience amazing things and do whatever they wanted and have the freedom and liberation to live their lives in a way that they were meant to by Creator because of federal policy, or who couldn't even run away from residential schools, or who tried to run away like my grandfather when he was 5, and who ran about 150 kilometers as a 5-year-old from Edmonton to where we were, that we were doing it for all of them. And we embodied that for them. We embodied Ahkameyimok, don't give up, which is something that our elders always told us when things got hard. And it was important to have that in our team name.
Yeah. And you see the mat, you get to the mat, and the physical sensation is elation. And what that feels like is, if you think about the shape of a lightning bolt, like a zigzag shape, there's multiple of those reverberating through your body, like pushing you up, and you feel this sense of joy and elation. Like that's what it is. You're on cloud 9, and then your mind's clear. And then there was a point where I looked at our other racers and I made eye contact with Arti and the sisters, and I saw tears. And you'll see on the show that the mat was set behind the backdrop of this beautiful lake. And suddenly that energy settled within my body, pushed out through my feet, and kind of spread out among the earth where we were at. And the only thing to do in that moment was to respect the people who helped guide our path to that place. And the ability to be connected to that energy, the ability to understand what that feels like, and the ability for me to express that now is 100% the result of speaking our Indigenous languages. Because the process of Indigenous languages, the thing that it creates inside your mind, is a connection to energy and space and people and time and water and elements and animals and plants in a way that other languages don't do that. And that's why I love Indigenous languages. And that's why it's so important for them to be alive and for them to continue, because access to that part of the mind and access to that part of the spirit enables us to be better people. And that's the social technology that Indigenous people across the world have preserved through their languages, through their rites, through their ceremonies, through their songs, through their practices. And it's so important that these things survive, because it's not only technology, it's a piece of the human heritage. And we have to protect that at all costs, because it's unique and special and it's important.
So this year at the United Nations, it's the International Year of Indigenous Languages, and we thought it was very fitting to have our own name be from an Indigenous language to represent that first and foremost, because of the importance of that to our people, but also to encourage non-Indigenous people to also learn Indigenous languages, because they're the original languages of this continent. English and French are second to that. And whatever territory that you live in, you should be able to communicate in a greeting or in a way that is respectful of the original people of that particular area, because that is their territory that they never gave up. We agreed to share this territory in treaty, and as a good treaty partner, you should learn the languages of the people that live there as well.
Yeah, and one thing about that is it's been really interesting to see, our settler friends, or as some people call them, woke settlers, which for me invokes a picture of like a pilgrim with big eyes. Like, I'm awake.
We love woke settlers.
We love woke settlers, but it's fun to hear them try and say. And one of the things that I see is sometimes there's a fear or there's a trepidation, like, I don't want to use your language because it's not mine. And we've taken so much. And the thing is, when you're using someone's languages, it's an extension into their heart and saying, I want to acknowledge you in a way that's significant and meaningful to you. And, please use it. Please say Ahkameyimok. Please try and say something, because it's a connection. It's an olive branch. It's a bridge towards being together.
But the cool thing is that many people already say many Indigenous words that they don't even realize. And so that's the cool thing about them, because many places across Turtle Island are from Indigenous languages. Kanachige, which means to describe a clean place, is how some people interpret how the word Canada came, but also it can be described as a village in another Indigenous languages in the eastern part of this country. Or Manitoba is from Manitou Ahpit, where creators sat, and there's a very symbolic place in that area, which is the center of this land, which is where Treaty 1 comes from, which is why Treaty 1 stems there, because it needed to be there, which is in our teachings about that. Then next to that is Saskatchewan, which is from Saskatchewan, which is the fast-flowing river or waters which originate in the glaciers of Assiniboine, the mountains where the glaciers are from, where we say the Thunderbirds are from, and the importance of that. And so there's many different places, even if it's Chicago, Sikahkwak, which is from Cree, which describes a smelly place like a skunk, because it was built on a swamp. Or Mississippi, the big waters, which describes that river. And so there's many different places across the land, and that tells people that Indigenous people just didn't live on a reserve. We're not supposed to live on reserves. We're supposed to live in our whole territory and have access to those as well. Learning Nehiawewin, which is how we say our original language, is so important for me and other young Nehiawak people. That's how we describe ourselves in our own language. It's not Cree, it's Nehio, which is people of the four directions or four-bodied human beings, which describes in our history on Turtle Island when our people came together after a great flood that was in this land. So it gives insight into the historical context and timeline of events on Turtle Island. Before that, everybody was called Aisinawak, which is the original human beings. And after this great event, then all of these different nations emerged from that. So because people my age, I'm not going to give my age away, but late 30s.
He's old.
I was the oldest person on The Amazing Race Canada at the end. Because people my age and younger in my community, in particular, in many Indigenous nations across Canada, are among the first cohort or group of people who don't speak our language fluently. There is a huge pressure on us to retain our languages for future generations and learn it as quickly as possible, while also maintaining a life in the 21st century and having a job and being successful and doing all of these things. So it's very stressful there's a lot of pressure on our shoulders to do this because our language speakers are getting fewer and fewer. Although Nehiawewin has 5 dialects across the land, and there are many thousands of language speakers, the retention of it and the transfer of it to the next generation is something that's hugely important. So very near and dear to our heart. We do many things to try to learn and maintain our languages.
coming to Treaty 6 territory, I'm a settler too. I'm from this land. I'm Dene. That's how we call ourselves in our language. Dene means the people. Our relatives are up here. They call themselves Dene. And our languages are they're not identical, but they're the same language group. They sound exactly, very similar. And it's also connected to Apache. And so the process of learning Cree for me has been a couple of things. One of them is its utility, because I'm in another nation. I'm in Canada, so I have to learn and abide by all those rules. But I'm married to a Nehio person. And so I have to learn and abide by those rules as well, because there's a different legal system that governs our lives. And so language is out of necessity for that. And it's fun. But it's also interesting to know what part of my psyche and my body and my spirit is opened by learning and connecting to the Cree language.
Language relates to place. And a really easy word, you ask someone where they're from, Tate uche kia. Where uche is from your belly button nitsi. Where does your bloodline stem from? Where are you from? It's translated. And that describes the importance of many things. It describes the importance of women as the carrier of our bloodlines and how that's connected physically to the land. When they put the placenta back on the land and reclaim that so that their child is grounded to their territory and their identity and language, culture, and medicines and everything that stem from that. And so there's many things and teachings that are in Indigenous languages that get mistranslated and lost when it's converted into English or a non-Indigenous language, and it loses the spirit and description of it. And our language is a spiritual language that was gifted to us, Indigenous people, directly from the Creator, which is why it's important for us to continue to speak them. And that primarily was gifted to women as the first teachers of our children, their children, to have that responsibility and carry that bundle. It's the women and Indigenous people who have the responsibility to carry our language, and it is not the responsibility of the federal government or any government to be legislating about Indigenous languages, because they do not own our languages. We own our languages, and the Creator gifted them to us. So if anyone is going to make laws about our languages, it's Indigenous people ourselves.
I'll just end with thank you, my relations, and a cool phrase. It's central to Navajo philosophy and our thinking and our prayers, our ceremonies. Is Najonago na sha. So najone means beautiful. Na sha means to go, but najone doesn't mean physical beauty or superficial beauty. It describes this deep harmonic resonance of peace, prosperity, and balance. And so if you think about your life, in Cree they say the Sweetgrass Trail, they call it the Red Road. For us, it's your life walk. Njonago na sha, along that walk, along every single step. Beauty above you, below you, in front of you, behind you, to your sides, all around you, and live in that deep harmonic peace. I'm Anthony.
I'm James.
We're Team Ahkameyimok.
And we're the winners of the Amazing Race Canada Season 7. Woo! Ah!
For more CBC podcasts, go to cbc.ca/podcasts.